And the loading thing is really awkward. I got time. And we are live. This is the Rich Report, bringing you the richest content across entertainment. My name is Cameron Richardson, and joining me today on the stream, Evan McNelia and Michael Manny for the first time. Michael, how are you doing? It's great to have you on the stream.
Oh, Cam, I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me, guys. I really appreciate it.
Doing good. Excited for Game 4 tonight. Bucks about to take home a win, but excited to just get into it.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
And look, we threw Michael right into the fire because we're going to be talking about a lot of stuff today. A lot of stuff that's going on in the sports media world. But first, we're going to start on a happy note. The MLB All-Star Game. Well, let's say the two All-Star days were just absolutely incredible. The Home Run Derby was as exciting as one could expect at Coors Field with Pete Alonso taking a dub. And the All-Star Game, while the AL won again, and I know most of us aren't big American League fans, but we just got to appreciate the stars we have now. First off, Michael, let's start with you. What were your thoughts on the Home Run Derby and Pete Alonso going back-to-back after he won in 2019?
He just amazes me. I mean, 34 homers in the first round. He blew me away. It was just right. It was just right off. He barely even needed to take a timeout. He was that hot, and he just kept going. He was unbelievable. I mean, I think he was better than he was in 2019, and he was unbelievable in that Derby in Cleveland in 2019. I mean, he was unreal. Ohtani came to see Ohtani. He had a slow start, but him and Soto went to the swing off and went to sudden death. After that, it was just, he was unbelievable. Soto, Trey Mancini, a great story. He had a great showing too. I think the Derby gets better year after year. It really does in my eyes.
The Derby this year was probably the most exciting I've seen in my lifetime, hands down. I mean, the Juan Soto upset over Shohei Ohtani was crazy in that battle. Like Michael said, just seemed to go on forever. And it felt felt similar to that Euro final last weekend, coming down to the very end and using all the time they could. But, Juan Soto definitely showed out. It was exciting seeing the Home Run Derby played at elevation. Balls were flying out. And at the end, I mean, Pete Alonso, got to give it to him. He battled through a fan needing to medically be evacuated from the outfield and still managed to keep his mojo going during that break that he had and managed to get the win in the Derby.
Yeah, I thought Nick Castellanos was up the way that kid went out with looked like an ACL injury because that kid needed help off the field. I think that's always been one of the funnier parts of the Home Run Derby is that these kids, because when I played Little League and my brothers, it came from the pitch and run competition that you have at your local Little Leagues, and if you won, you'd get a trip to the All-Star game. And so those are all the kids in the outfield, and you're just seeing just line drives at like 110 plus just get laced to them. Some made some nice catches, but yeah, some tried getting in the way of their counterparts. And you get a ball that just tips off the glove, it's not going to be a good night for somebody else. So yeah, I guess I'd say this Home Run Derby format's kind of grown on me. I was always a traditionalist when it comes to it being 10 out, just because I wasn't like with everything in baseball, I'm not a fan of it running on time. Baseball is a timeless game. It's always controlled by the players on the field, but MLB has just slightly gone closer and closer to it running on some type of clock. But I've enjoyed it. It's, players, can adjust. They can strategize for how they want to use the clock, and they have that timeout as well. But still, I'm always going to side with, traditional baseball and go that I was a big fan of 10 outs. It was always, fascinating when a guy was on his ninth out and really it was one swing from going out, or he could go on a run. And I think I still prefer it that way, but I don't mind having the clock now. But what do you guys think?
I like this clock in the Derby format. I like this format better than the outs format. I actually do like the new change now where it used to be you have to wait for the ball to land. I honestly like the speed of it. And don't really have any complaints as far as the format goes. I wish on the broadcast, I wish ESPN would have stayed with the balls a little longer to kind of see where they land before they went back to the batter. That was something I didn't necessarily like, but I think the time format and the bonus time rather than just the 10 outs. I remember not liking it at first either, probably the first year or two, but it's really grown on me.
Yeah, ESPN also didn't mark the distance these home runs went. Like we just had to guess, okay, I'm assuming they went 475 to get that bonus time, but we never really saw any distance when we were live. So all in all, not the best produced home run derby we've had, but still entertaining nonetheless. Evan, what do you think about the current format?
I really liked it yesterday. I liked the feel of rapid fire. And hey, honestly, you're able to go as fast as whoever's pitching for you can get balls out and across the plate, and you can get set back in your stance. So, when guys would start getting on a roll, it's not like the 10 outs where they do get kind of like just a rest period in between and they get to think about it. It's just go hit as many home runs as you can in the next 4 minutes. And I don't know, it gives me, it's kind of the vibe that the 3-point contest has in the NBA. I think they could do a combination of outs and time. Like if they hit 10 outs within the 4-minute period, then their time ends or something like that. I think there's a way they could reincorporate kind of the old fundamentals of the home run derby. But this year was, like I said, it was the most exciting home run derby I've ever watched. And the pre-production, where they had the guys coming up against each other and stuff, was so awesome. It looked so cool, and they shot it so well. And they did a really good job this year. Like I think both of you said at this point, I think they wish they would have stayed a bit longer with the ball so we could have seen the true distance on them. But that's something they can learn how to do next year and figure out a way to incorporate it in the graphic. And maybe they include how they use in golf, the highlight trail behind the ball before. If they were to do that with every single ball off the bat throughout the at bat, I think it would make it a little bit easier for fans to follow. But there will be adjustments made, and I just can't wait to see where they go from here next year.
Yeah, it's gonna be a contrast to derbies though, because the balls will fly out of Coors Field, but when it comes to Dodger Stadium, and it's gonna be potentially humid next summer in LA, so expect the ball to die and expect a lot fewer home runs in that derby than what we got this year. But to the All-Star game last night, I mean, just an absolute total blast. Hearing the introduction of the players and just all the bright young talent we have in this league. And it's a shame because, MLB is still going to be considered niche to many sports fans, especially those in NBA and NFL. And it's because, the MLB doesn't have the best commissioner in all sports, to say the least. He's good old Rob Manfred is worried about banning the shift and how we can fix that, and having 7-run double headers, but now he's going to get rid of that. And then it was the runner on second base to start extra innings, just all the things that don't need to be focused on. The biggest focus right now needs to be on marketing your young stars, because that's how your league is going to grow, not pace of play, not banning the shift, not anything to manipulate the results of games. It's about marketing your stars, because right now you are in this golden generation of bright young global talents. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Shohei Ohtani, just to name a few, Ronald Acuna Jr. So many bright talent. It's ridiculous the talent that MLB has, and is still not taking advantage to promote these guys everywhere. I should be seeing those three faces at least on a majority of my commercials on when I watch ESPN, when I watch MLB Network. Anytime I see a sports broadcast on, I better see some of these MLB guys. Instead, all I get is Fernando Tatis on that energy drink commercial. That's it. That's all I've seen an MLB guy. I've seen Mike Trout in his entire illustrious career. I've seen him in one commercial. That was it. And I was excited for that one, but that's all we've gotten out of Mike Trout when it comes to marketing. So I don't know what MLB wants to do with their marketing, but it's got to change now. But Michael, you wrote a great piece yesterday on, the hidden gems of the All-Star game, but just let the audience know just how good are these young stars of baseball right now.
I mean, Cam, you hit the nail on the head. Just baseball there's a lot of things to be negative about in baseball today, but with all of that said, the game of baseball maybe has never been in better hands for this next generation. I mean, you name it: Vlad Jr., Shohei, Ronald Acuna, Fernando Tatis. I mean, just on the Padres, Jake Cronenworth, Manny Machado. I mean, the Dodgers have all of their talent. Just it's all around the league. You could go for hours just naming all of the young talent in baseball right now. It's so much fun to watch, and it's just thinking as baseball fans to be able to. I mean, Juan Soto, we didn't even really talk about him. Trey Turner. I mean, guys over in the NL East, and it's as just for baseball fans, it's an exciting time just to get to watch all of these guys at the beginning of their careers. I mean, look at what guys like Soto and Vlad Jr. and Ohtani they're in the beginnings of their careers, and look at what they've accomplished already. It's a great time to be a fan. It's a great time to just be following baseball. There was something that I saw last night about Ohtani that it was something that blew me away. It was a tweet from Stats by Stats. They said that Ohtani is the first player in the modern era to start at pitcher, start in the leadoff spot, and earn the win all in the same game, regular season, post, or all-star game. That blew me away. That we are witnesses to that. Just all of the young talent in baseball today. They're good. They're all good.
I feel like these young stars have almost created the same excitement in baseball that the steroid era created by just being good at the game and just slaughtering baseballs. And I think that's what's special about our generation. I think both of you hit the nails on the head pretty well with just like how special these guys are. But the excitement that they're creating on their own, I mean, it's Ohtani, it's Acuna, it's Vlad, it's Tatis. Like, those guys right there alone are carrying this league to its next level and revamping it into being an exciting league again that people talk about and people pay attention to. And that's the first time it's happened in 20 years, maybe my lifetime, where like baseball is on some nights at the top of the news ring when there's other important stuff going on. And that's because of the young stars. So I don't think their value to this league can be understated. And all I can say is Shohei Ohtani is about to be the highest paid player in Major League Baseball history because of his versatility. It's exciting.
Yeah, and just to put it in perspective, because people like to compare Shohei to Babe Ruth, who was also a hitter and pitcher. But let's be honest here. 100 years ago, when it was when baseball was around, you were going up against, plumbers, guys who worked, those blue collar and white collar jobs. Baseball was just the second job that you had, and then you go and work another job. Players were tired, by the time they got to the field because of the work they were already doing, off the field, because you weren't making that much if you were in baseball. So, I mean, let's be honest here. Shohei's already passed anything Babe Ruth could ever imagine do. I mean, Ohtani goes from hitting a bunch of home runs in the home run derby, gassing himself out, into 24 hours later, he's leading off for the AL and then is pumping 100 miles per hour as the starting pitcher. I mean, no one else. It's going to take, somebody's got to look at Shohei and go, yeah, I'm inspired by him and want to be like him to say, I'm going to accomplish what he's doing. 33 home runs this year. He's pumping 100, doing well on the mound, and I was still on the train, going into the season that it could be detrimental for the Angels because, hey, if this guy gets hurt at any point, there goes your best hitter and there goes your ace. But as of right now, he's killing it. He's still got the Angels fighting at least, on the outside looking in. But man, just appreciate Shohei Ohtani because his career will fly by just in a snap of a finger. It's just appreciate him while we have him now because it's truly a once in a lifetime talent that we have with Shohei. Now, on the topic of Shohei, Stephen A. Smith on First Take a couple days ago said that because he needs a translator that he cannot be the superstar and that it could be detrimental for the MLB. Now, I'll say that probably all three of us don't agree with that, and that there are talents globally in all four leagues, we can say that, don't whose first language isn't English. You know, they don't have the best English, but we still enjoy watching them. Why Shohei became that guy for Stephen A, the first guy he thought of, is kind of weird because we have, you know, in the NBA, we have Giannis and Luka. While they do speak fine English, you know, they're not always guys we can understand clearly, but we've never questioned, you know, their marketability. Giannis is arguably the face of the NBA. Luka's that next young rising star in the league. I mean, you look at the MLS, the majority of their players are international, and some probably don't speak English. You know, the only league where you don't really have that problem is the NFL because it's a solely, you know, United States sports league. So why Shohei became that guy was kind of weird from Stephen A. And he just lets me know that, you know, Stephen A doesn't know much about baseball really, because everybody in the baseball community knows what Shohei's done. But Michael, when you first heard or saw these comments from Stephen A, what was your initial reaction, and what do you think he could have done better or said in a different way to I don't know, maybe not make it as bad as it should have been?
I remember when I first heard this, I honestly I couldn't believe it. That First Take, I mean, the producers of First Take, they saw this segment. This was planned, and they let this happen. It's frankly tone deaf. I believe June Lee, a writer for ESPN, I believe he said something similar to this. It's not a prerequisite in this country to speak English to do anything, let alone be a once in a lifetime athlete that's doing something nobody has ever seen before in any of our lifetimes. What I think Stephen A, I don't want to say he didn't understand what he was saying, but it was not the right way to go about it for sure. It was frankly disrespectful to the Asian American community. It was a bit tone deaf. What he's doing, it transcends language. I mean, people from all around the world are amazed at what he's doing. And baseball is, maybe this is something else maybe he doesn't understand or he didn't think about when he was creating the segment, when him and his producers at First Take were creating the statement, is that baseball is a global game. I mean, the guy that got the save last night, Liam Hendricks, he's Australian. Vlad Guerrero Jr., he was born in Canada. He plays for a team in Canada, and he's from the Dominican Republic. And Shohei Ohtani, he's Japanese. Before he came here and blew the minds of the baseball community, he blew the minds of Japanese baseball fans. I mean, baseball is a global game. We have stars, or I guess not we, but baseball has stars from all over the world, as does the NBA, as does the NHL, as do sports around the world. It's just disappointing to hear somebody with as big of a platform as Stephen A. Smith. I mean, First Take, NBA, UFC, his ESPN Plus show. Someone with as big of a platform as Stephen A. Smith. It's disappointing that he said what he said, and that he kind of used his platform so insensitively that he thought that Ohtani can't be the face of baseball, that he doesn't have that marketability just because he doesn't speak English. I think it was insensitive and just the wrong way to go about it.
Overall, it was just a really ignorant comment from Stephen A. Smith. The only thing that comment taught me about him is that he's too lazy to learn Japanese and he doesn't know how to read a box score. So, I mean, no one cares if Ohtani speaks English. Like you guys said, his talent transcends English. You watch a hitter in baseball hit the lights out of stadiums and then go on the mound and sit down batters 1, 2, 3 in a row and walk off the mound. That's someone that you're going to watch no matter what, because he's playing the game that you're there to watch at the highest level it can possibly be played. So You know what? It's just ignorant from Stephen A. Smith. I think he was trying to maybe get clicks with this one. He's bored during his off season. He doesn't know anything about baseball. So he's, you know what? Let's rile those fans up. You know what? It's just an idiot comment from another idiot sports talking head.
Yeah, and I gotta say, I mean, it was that same day where he said it, where I started to question, just how much do we have to sacrifice just to make our way to the top? Do we have to sacrifice integrity just to get, clicks? Because Stephen A. and other guys like Skip Bayless, they were reputable journalists and sports media members when they came up, and now they have these giant platforms. And First Take was something I used to go to a lot when I was a kid, when it was first, around, and it was quite entertaining, Skip and Stephen A. going back and forth. And while some of the stuff they said was pretty crazy and out of left field, you still watch it. You were still entertained and still somewhat informative. But now you got Skip trolling everybody on Fox Sports on with Shannon Sharp, and then you got First Take that it's turned pretty much into a clown show, and it makes me wonder, what is the sacrifice that we have to make? We're all going to find different paths, and what no matter what our goals are, I think our main goal, while trying to accomplish all other goals, is keep our integrity. We want to be reputable and credible. We want people to trust us that we can deliver good news, great interviews, ask the right questions, and still have integrity, and still, while we can get a little bit wild with, hot takes on, certain opinions, still back it up with facts. And the problem is that most of these guys on these shows, whether it be Undisputed or First Take or, Speak for Yourself, that's also on FS1, I'd even look at Colin Cowherd, because even though a lot of people think, he's got a big ego and all that, I still look at him and go, he's someone that can still hold his integrity high. He brings in a lot of real life examples that bring it back and help you relate to your real life if you aren't as big of a sports fan as other people are. He's still able to throw that in, while I get a Stephen A. and a Kendrick Perkins, of all guys in sports media, talking about the NBA like he's been a media member for a long time, when he was just a mediocre basketball player at best. It's a weird time. It's interesting though, because we get to see what it's like now, just seeing these guys and go and trying to compare it to what we write, say, do, and it's strange, to say the least. It's very strange. But another transition that we're seeing in U.S. sports leagues is that global talent making its way over to the U.S. I already talked about the MLS, and majority of their players are international. NBA is getting taken over by international athletes, especially looking at the Olympic exhibition games. USA, after only losing 2 in 56 games, lost 2 in a row to Nigeria, and then they lost to Australia. There's global talent everywhere. NBA is starting to become, or basketball in general is becoming, a global league. And I would say that they're 2 of the most accessible sports out there. All you got to do, you go pick up a ball, you get an object that's circular, and you go and you throw that through, and you can sort of start a basketball career maybe that way. You can shoot hoops, you can pretty much anywhere. And you use soccer ball, you create your own net, or just get 2 things they can put in between, and you kick that ball through, boom, soccer. Everywhere else you kind of need to spend a lot of money to play that sport. Golf, tennis, even running, I'd say, because running shoes are very expensive. They're not as accessible to many people around the world, but soccer and basketball seem to be the 2 easiest that can be accessed. There's not many barriers you have to go through to play those, and you can work your way up from there. But I could say now that we've got 3 global talents in the NBA that are international: Luka, Giannis, and then you got Joel Embiid, who's from Cameroon. So what do we think about this? Is it, are we ready to accept that there are international athletes that are going to be taking over these U.S. sport leagues? MLB already, NBA's still growing. And what was our reaction to Team USA basketball dropping to Nigeria and then losing to Australia? Is it just exhibition? Should we not look into it as deeply, or should we go, okay, the NBA basketball landscape is changing, and we just are going to have to accept it? It shouldn't be as much of a shock.
I think first off that the game growing internationally can only be good for the game. for each sport individually. Because I feel like over the years, I feel like every major sports league has had their moment of their prime within the US audience at this point. I think the NFL, they have some more room to grow, give or take a few if they add a team in a city somewhere. And, there's always a little bit room for growth within the national market, but I think we're starting to see some of these leagues hit their cap within the national audience. It's going to be important for every league to branch out into international countries and make their sports more accessible and more popular overseas in order to grow the game more past where it is. Everyone wants soccer contracts, but there's no sport that rivals soccer in terms of popularity, in terms of money it generates. So until we get to that point, I think more international stars coming into these leagues will be beneficial for the leagues. They're creating a better product on the field, raising the level of play, and bringing more eyes from international audiences from their home countries. So it may take a while before we see, a league like the NFL have a huge international presence as they've started to grow in places like Germany and England. It may take some more time, but at the same time, I think time will come where internationally, all 4 major US sports organizations will still be the home of the highest level of major league for their sports, but there will be a lot more talent pool coming from internationally, but they'll all be coming to the US to play in front of US crowds. So I think it'll be good for these leagues. And I think we're about to see over the next 20, 30 years, a huge revolution in terms of international players coming into primarily American sports.
Yeah, I think that it's great for sports. It's great for the world. I mean, we just talked about it. See, basketball really is becoming a global game. I mean, it's not just, I get it. The losses to Nigeria and the loss to Australia, I get those are exhibition games. They don't count for anything. But I think that really shows something, that it's not just Team USA steamrolling the competition anymore. It's all around the world. I mean, in Europe, in Africa, everywhere, that there's basketball talent everywhere. It's not just Team USA. It's not just a bunch of NBA players that are on Team USA that are just steamrolling to gold every 4 years in the Summer Olympics. I really think it's good. It's really, really good for the game that everywhere, that it's not that the talent is better, that there's better not better athletes, but just that these different countries all around the world, they're all getting better. And, obviously soccer is not on par here in America as it is in Europe, in the rest of the world. But I mean, you think that in the next couple of decades, that maybe here soccer gets the team's MLS it just gets better and better it gets maybe at least a little on par with the European leagues, European teams, for lack of a better word. I think it's good for sports. It's good for the world that all these players, all these leagues, all these teams from all the different corners of the world are just getting better. And I think that's only going to continue as the years go by, as the decades go on.
Yeah, I think more eyes that get on, something like soccer in the U.S., that's going to open the talent pool even more for Team USA on the women's side already, and they're already loaded with talent, but on the men's side as well. And the men won the Nations League against Mexico, so there's a lot of talent there on the U.S. side. And soccer, I think, is growing as in popularity in the U.S. because look at the Euro final, Italy and England. Everybody that I saw on Instagram and Snapchat, they were posting stories about watching the Euro final. I was like, okay, times are a-changing. ESPN did their biggest number with the Euro final. It hit 6.4 million, I believe, somewhere within that number. And then I look at the cup race that I watched on NBCSN and had to cover, and that only did around 2.6 million, I believe. Yeah, I mean, you have a Euro final, an international competition, doing triple the viewership of one of the more, American sports leagues out there. So times are definitely changing. I think the U.S. is, whether some people like it or not, they're adapting to the global talent signal of the world. And, if you don't like it, then go find another sport, I guess, or just stop watching, because we really don't need you. Because the only people that win from talents everywhere around the world are all of us. That's who wins, is all of us. We're all winners if we get just the talent pool is just global. It's just an awesome era of, athletic competition we're seeing on a global scale. It's fun to see. But all right, gentlemen, it's a 2-1 lead in the NBA Finals for the Phoenix Suns. The Suns and Devin Booker especially did not play all that well in Game 3. Devin Booker didn't shoot well at all, and Milwaukee was able to take a victory and get back in the series. Giannis now has 2 straight 40-point games. First off, Michael, we on the stream Monday, usually when you see a star like Devin Booker have as poor of a shooting night as a superstar can have, that's usually the top storyline. If it were LeBron or Kevin Durant shooting that poorly, that'd be one of the main headlines. But Colin Cowherd made a good point saying that it wasn't. It was like a third, fourth lead. The lead was the Bucks won, get back in the series. Second lead was Giannis having his second straight 40-point game. So I'll ask you what your thoughts are. Is Devin Booker a true superstar yet in the NBA, or is he a star transitioning into a superstar? Is he on that level yet of a Giannis or Kevin Durant, or is it still, he's somewhere in between? Because usually if someone has that poor of a shooting night and they're on that KD LeBron level, that would be one of the main talking points coming out of Game 3. But it seems that's just kind of like a second, like kind of a footnote going into Game 4. But what do you think?
Well, that's interesting that you say that, because I guess I hadn't really been paying attention to all the national media, what they were talking about after that game. It was just the local media that I was paying attention to. But to me, there's no question in my mind that Devin Booker is a superstar. And I think these playoffs have shown that to the rest of the country that, haven't been paying attention to the Suns since Devin Booker came in the league, really since they were last in the Western Conference Finals against LA now 10 years ago. With good reason. It's been a rough 10 years in Phoenix. And I think there's no question that Booker is a superstar. He did have a really bad shooting night in Game 2. He just kind of had a bad night all around. But something that they talked about on Bakley and Murata, it's a local sports talk radio show here in Phoenix, that Booker's played a lot of minutes in these playoffs. And something that they brought up that I think is interesting to think about is just the mental fatigue. I mean, this is his first playoff run. This is, besides Jay Crowder, really, and Chris Paul, these are all of these guys' first playoff runs. And that he's played a lot of minutes. He's never gotten this far before. He just finished, 6 games of the Western Conference against the Clippers. That was a tough series. So just the way he was defended, the way Patrick Beverley defended him. It's been I think, mental fatigue. It was what they talked about. I think that's a good point to bring up, that he could have just been tired. He could have been gassed. And he sat out pretty much the entire fourth quarter. And I think the rest could do him well. He didn't have a good shooting night. He didn't really have a good night at all. In that game, he had 10 points, 29 minutes, only 3 of 14 from the field. That's about his worst night that he's had in this postseason. A postseason that really, for his first run, has been unbelievable. I wouldn't expect him to be that bad again tonight. If he is, then maybe the next day we're saying something different. But I think he is a superstar. I really do think so. Superstars have bad nights. It's interesting, though, that you bring up that wasn't the top story, though. That, from a national standpoint, I don't really know why, because you would think it would be top of the list. But I think he is. If you had to ask me, I think he is.
Now, Evan, going into Game 4, what was an aspect that Milwaukee either exposed or gaining the advantage on that they need to continue, gaining advantage on or exposing heading into Game 4 tonight?
For Milwaukee, it's just about continuing to force the Suns into tough shots. The Suns are one of the best shooting teams in the NBA, and they were absolutely lights out in games 1 and 2 in Phoenix. In game 3, I feel like as a team, they struggled a little bit more from the field as a whole, even aside from Devin Booker. So, you can't let them shoot like 70% from the field and knock down threes every time down the floor like we saw in games 1 and 2. That's how the Bucks are gonna end up losing this in 5. So I think the Bucks really need to capitalize and just show up on defense and get this win in game 4 to even up the series, or else they could be in danger going back to Phoenix in game 5.
And now, Michael, I'll ask you. Look, I've been a big fan of Cam Johnson, ever since I was a part of his media scrum way back when we did the Suns training camp back in October 2019. I thought he had a good head on his shoulders and, just a good basketball player that came from North Carolina. I've said that Monty needs to get in and start this guy because either one of Mikal Bridges or Jay Crowder has struggled through almost every single game in these playoffs. So Cam Johnson, he makes the most of the limited amount of minutes he plays. And, he put up double digits in game 3 while Mikal Bridges did struggle. Jay Crowder had a good game shooting, but Mikal Bridges was a little bit off on that night. So it's one of those guys end up struggling. Is there a chance that if Phoenix and one of those two struggle, that Cam Johnson will get those minutes and maybe turn to the starter and maybe start getting in that 25, 30-minute playing range?
I don't know if I'd put it past Monty Williams to start Cam Johnson or even give him that more minutes. I think that the lineups are pretty set, that the reason they're here in the first place partly is because of Mikal Bridges and Jay Crowder. Both of them you're absolutely right, have had either one or both of them in a lot of games this playoffs have had bad shooting nights, bad defensive nights. I mean, Crowder's gotten into kind of technical foul trouble quite a few times in this postseason. Cam Johnson's played out of his mind in his first postseason. He played 30 minutes in game 3, and in game 1 he played 16 minutes. He was 4 of 8 from the field there. In game 2, he played only, that was Payne, 18 minutes. His minutes have increased just in the first 3 games of the series. I really think if Phoenix gets in trouble, he could see more minutes. I don't know if Coach Williams is going to make him a starter, but maybe next season we could see that. It wouldn't surprise me at all, given how he's played, which is really, really well. But more minutes, I don't think are out of the question at all. He's shot the ball great. Pretty much this entire postseason, he's shot the ball great. But Jay Crowder and Mikal Bridges are part of what got Phoenix here. I mean, Bridges plays great defense. Both of them play great defense. They're great shooters. They've had off nights. Both of them have had several off nights in this postseason, these finals included. They've both played really well, but it wouldn't surprise me at all to see Cam get more minutes, though him starting, that would have to be a wait and see.
All right, gents, final predictions for tonight. Who is taking game 4 heading back into Phoenix? Will it be an even series, or will Phoenix set up a closeout title clincher at home? Evan, will it be Milwaukee, and will it be Giannis getting another 40-point game, or will someone step up and have a breakout similar to Chris Middleton's insane fourth quarter against Atlanta?
I think someone needs to step up tonight for the Bucks. I don't know if Giannis can do another 40-point game. I don't know how his knee's still feeling at this point, I don't know if it's bothering him at all anymore. I mean, he just put up 2 back-to-back 40-point games, but at the same time, it was just a little over a week and a half ago now that we saw that injury. So I think someone else needs to step up tonight. I think it will either be Chris or J-Rue, and I think the Bucks get the win and even up the series heading back to the Valley.
Where are you leaning, Michael? Who you got in game 4?
Well, the Suns are going to be going back to Phoenix tied 2-2 if Booker has another night like he did in game 3. They need Devin Booker to play better, bar none. He's what makes the offense go. DeAndre Ayton can't get in the foul trouble again because behind him they don't have the size. I mean, Dario Saric has a torn ACL. He won't be back. He'll miss a lot of next season. Frank Kaminsky hasn't played the best in the limited minutes he's had. If we've seen that if he's had these 2 big games in a row. In game 2, Phoenix was able to kind of absorb that because Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday both didn't play. Their absolute best, Middleton had 11, Holiday had 17, but even then, Phoenix was able to come out on top. If Giannis has another unbelievable game, and I think it's going to depend on if how Booker plays, and if Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton are on. If Middleton and Holiday are on, and Giannis has another huge game, it could be a different story. But for Phoenix, if Booker is in his right mind in game 4, Ayton stays out of foul trouble, and we get another good game from Crowder and Bridges, I'm interested to see how everyone plays.
Thank you, Michael, for joining for the first time, and thank you, Evan, for hopping on as always. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube if you want to follow us on there, but of course we go live on Twitter and Facebook too. Make sure to check out all of our columns, recaps, and reviews on richport.com. All our social medias are also on the YouTube version of this stream as well, so make sure to go follow us. Thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you on Friday to preview the weekend ahead in sports and name our Fruit Loops of the week. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you on Friday. Have a great rest of your